Princesses and heroines have been victims of what I call the princess perception problem. Barbie, Disney, and other princesses are perceived in one way, but these perceptions are not supported when you actually take the time to analyze the text. It has been the subject of much debate. Are they oppressive or empowering? Are they sexist or feminist? Are they good role models for young girls or awful ones? Good day everyone, I am Calxiyn, and today I will be giving you my analysis of The Little Mermaid. Remember to subscribe if you enjoy these videos, comment down below with your thoughts regarding The Little Mermaid or my points, and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube membership members for making videos like this possible. If you would like to get some cool rewards as well as give me the direct support I need to continue making videos, you can join them by clicking the links in the description. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge that a YouTuber called Lindsay Ellis posted a Little Mermaid video around June 16th, and I just want to make it clear that I actually finished writing my script for this on the 14th and made a completely different version back in August, so it's kind of awkward just for me because I don't want anybody to think that I'm copying them. I had said to my recording partner for my other content that I was recording this, and they were like, oh, Lindsay Ellis made a video like that today, and I don't watch her or know much about her, so this isn't like a promotion from me, it's more like an acknowledgement. I just wanted to say that because my channel is smaller and I was a bit concerned about people making a misconception about me, which is ironic considering we're talking about princess misconceptions today. Her video actually covers some of the same things that inspired my series in the first place. As some of you may know, I actually started this with Barbie Princess and the Pauper last year, and so she talks about some of the bad faith or uninformed criticism, the girl boss feminism that's associated with like many Disney movies and many like female characters and princesses in general, but specifically the change for a man idea in relation to Ariel. And so that being said, that is where we will start. First, we have to clear up some incorrect perceptions of Ariel, since everything else will be dependent on this. Ariel seems to be misremembered by some people as a passive woman who gave up her voice and changed her body for a man, but she is anything but that. Ariel is immediately presented to us as this daring explorer who explores sunken ships and can outmaneuver sharks. She's smart, brave, passionate, adventurous, determined, and strong-willed. And it's funny how so many people see her as passive when she's extremely defiant and does not hold back when telling her father how she really feels. In the TV series, she saves multiple people, but in the movie itself, she saves Flounder multiple times, and people seem to forget that she does most of the saving in regards to Eric, who she saves from drowning and brainwashing. Ariel pulled up this heavy, soaking wet man with all her strength onto a beach, yet when people talk about the princesses that are heroes, it seems like that they'll only pick Mulan or Elsa. Eric may have dealt the final blow to the villain, but that doesn't make Ariel helpless or passive. People invalidate all the time she saved Eric just because Eric saved her that one time. And I hate this trend that independence means never getting help from anyone ever, especially when that's shown to be the girl boss thing to do. We all need to help each other as human beings, and I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on people, especially girls, to have to do it all or be it all when we should really all fight for each other. And I feel like that there's an equal balance in the movie between Ariel fighting for Eric and Eric fighting for Ariel. When it comes to the idea of changing for Eric, people seem to ignore the fact that Ariel was already fascinated with human culture in order to fit their narrative. This love was clearly presented to the audience before she ever met Eric, as we are introduced to her when she's on one of her human object adventures that has nothing to do with him. Though I do think the movie should be judged for how it stands alone, it's just kind of funny to me because the entire TV show is a prequel to The Little Mermaid, and Ariel is constantly going on adventures and doing human-related stuff, and obviously, like, that should be presented in the movie, which it is, but I wonder if anybody has done an ounce of research because it would show that Ariel had more of a personality if they were able to make an entire TV show where Eric isn't present. Clearly, she has a personality outside of the love interest for them to do so. But even without the TV series, we already see this, which is why it's so frustrating. She's almost like a hobby anthropologist, collecting anything that she can find from human culture. To me, she is intelligent and hungers for knowledge. I mean, listen, I'm not a sciencey person. My degree is in professional communication with a minor in English and philosophy. But as far as I know, anthropology is the umbrella for so many sciences. And it's almost like people are devaluing that social science, which to me is way more sexist than how they think the movie is. She has always been passionate about studying the human world and wanted more than just seeing them from afar and studying their things. She wants to be there. She wants to be a part of the experience. Part of your world is about going up to the surface to ask them questions and learn, something she can't do under the sea. She can't directly ask humans questions and be a part of their culture. And at the end of Part of Your World, she talks about wanting to explore the shore, showcasing how she's an adventurer and values experiences and exploration. In this song, she also talks about all of the things that she wants to do that she cannot do just studying them from afar. So Ariel was always interested in humans, and when she sees a human up close, she sees them all doing what she expressed she wants to do in Part of Your World before seeing Eric. Jumping, dancing. She's focused on Eric for a bit of that scene, thinking he's handsome, but it's not just about Eric. Ariel always wanted to experience what it would be like to be a part of human culture, and Eric's party is just the catalyst. This is the first time that she's part of a celebration, a milestone, a memorable experience like she always wanted. She wants to have more moments like this and actually be among them. And now that I say that, among them just reminded me of Quasimodo's I Want song in Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is very similar to Ariel's. But you don't really hear that same criticism about him wanting to be part of society just because of Esmeralda. So it seems like those who say this about Ariel, despite the similarities between their two experiences, seem to be a little biased to me. No one's ever saying that Quasimodo just went out to live his life because of a girl. Esmeralda is just the catalyst. It's so similar, yet Ariel is the only one who gets targeted for wanting to be a part of this world. Now, in the reprise of Part of Your World, Ariel does shift focus to Eric. This is probably where people get the idea that Ariel only went to the human world because of a man or gave up her life as a mermaid for one. But these lyrics are about them going on adventures and experiences together. Where would we walk? Where would we run? She sees a mutual relationship together, both going on adventures together. She isn't giving up her life as a mermaid for Eric. Instead, she's expanding the dream she already had to include another person. She already had this dream, like many of us, I'm sure, have dreams to travel, for example. But we may make room in our dream to include our friends or our partner when that time comes, because sometimes having those experiences together with the people you love make them more fun. So Ariel already had this dream before Eric, but even after Eric, she doesn't doubt herself or think that something is wrong with her on her own. Her only doubt comes from other people that invalidate her, such as, maybe he's right, maybe there is something the matter with me. She's talking about her father and also Sebastian, in a sense. I feel like what showcases this the most is this Part of Your World line where Ariel says, bright young women, sick of swimming, ready to stand. It's incredibly empowering to me for this reason. Ariel is talking about going to a world where bright young women who stand strong are appreciated because she doesn't feel appreciated here for who she is. She's not insecure about being who she is or being a mermaid, but rather the people around her are making her feel badly about her passions, about her dreams, and she thinks that the human world is a place that will accept her. What's incredibly important to note is that Ariel is confident in herself. She doesn't invalidate herself or not accept herself. She just wants to find a place with like-minded people. She thinks the human world is where she can be truly appreciated for who she is, and she does get accepted by Eric and Grimsby. Going to the human world is an empowering experience for her because she can finally live authentically. It's not an oppressive one. And I think what proves this is the fact that she makes a plan to talk to Eric without going to Ursula first, as a mermaid. People have gone as far as to say that she mutilated her body for a man, which I feel like low-key has some TERF vibes, by the way, considering the queer metaphor that many people feel is presented, but it's also just incorrect. She doesn't lament about the fact that she's not human and commit to change for Eric. She doesn't say, oh gee, I wish I could talk to him, but I'm not a human, so sad. No. She makes a whole plan to go up to Eric as she is and just talk to him, right? Scuttle will get his attention and bring Eric down to the shore to see him that night. The only reason why Ariel turns to Ursula is after her father destroys her grotto, but before she was willing to go see Eric as she was and had no doubts about him accepting her. It's only because her father does not understand her and is not present or supportive as a father the way that she needs him to be that Ariel turns to Ursula. I think the true message of The Little Mermaid is about the prejudice of our parents and how when the adults in our lives fail, if we stray from the norm, we can fall victims to adults with ill intent. Ursula manipulates Ariel because Ursula presents herself as the only person she can trust. Triton, Sebastian, and Ursula all put ideas into Ariel's head about something being wrong with her or that they will not accept her, but Ariel and Eric prove them wrong. And now we get into Triton's role in all of this. Now that I've cleared up some purposeful misconceptions about Ariel's character, we should discuss Triton, Eric, and Ursula. Something I frequently see in the Little Mermaid discourse is those who say that Ariel was a brat and Triton was right all along. It seems like that some people think they're cooler for siding with the parents and not the immature princesses, but that seems very pick-me to me. It's also really funny how people say that Ariel changed for a man and then they go on to side with Triton, when Triton is the real person trying to pressure Ariel into change. You want to talk about changing for a man? The entire conflict of the movie is Triton and Sebastian trying to get Ariel to change who she really is, give up her passions and her dreams, and people online say that they were right the whole time. They criticize Ariel for changing for a man, which she didn't do, as I already said, while praising the men who want her to change. That is what's truly sexist here. Triton was not right. The entire movie is about how he was wrong, and I don't believe the other side of the extreme either. Like, some people are like, he's completely right, or he's an abusive monster. I don't think that it's either one of those extremes, but he was flawed. It's not like that anyone should be out here canceling Triton, but we have to acknowledge that he was flawed, because being a flawed parent but actually going through growth should be a positive message that no matter how old you are, you can change, become open-minded, and be a better person. Triton has flaws, but he changes, and that's such an important message for especially parents to see. By saying that he's one end of the spectrum or the other, that means that there's no capacity for change. If he was right the entire time, there's no room for change. If he's an abusive monster, there's no coming back from that. And so either way, either mindset does a disservice to the message and the themes of the movie. The movie showcases how Triton and Sebastian's behavior is wrong, which is why Sebastian and Triton are shown to grow. Triton loves his daughter, but clearly he has emotional issues, probably stemming from the trauma of Ariel's mother being killed by humans. He has anger issues, poor communication skills, and every time he yells at Ariel, he feels this immense guilt and regret. He's supposed to be a flawed parent who grows to become better, so when people say that Triton was right from the beginning, it takes away from the true message. Parents should be encouraged to become better for their children, to try to understand them even if they deviate from the norm, which is also very queer-coded to me again, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. The entire theme of The Little Mermaid is really a lack of understanding and, ironically, communication. How Triton cannot understand Ariel despite her using her voice, while Eric can understand Ariel in spite of her not having one. And here's something important about Triton and Sebastian at the beginning of the movie. They both value Ariel superficially. Ariel's true passion is for the human world, studying their culture, while her implied natural-born talent is her voice. Sebastian comments on her beautiful voice, but in the same breath also says how she doesn't go to rehearsals. They want Ariel to do what she was born to do, rather than what she's truly passionate about, and they do not take any interest in what she truly loves, going as far as to shame her and try to convince her to reject it. Now, what's interesting is that Eric, Grimsby, Triton, and Sebastian are almost all parallels to each other in this way. Eric falls for Ariel superficially too, in her voice, but during the montage, he actually becomes more open-minded and changes slowly, and Grimsby actually pushes him to change change permanently. Before the montage at dinner, Carlotta says that Eric has been smiling for the first time in weeks, and his outing with Ariel brings him a lot of joy, like when he's at sea. Ariel does a lot of the things that she wanted to do, more or less, strolling down the street, seeing people living their lives, there's puppet shows, there's going shopping, and to a bakery, judging by the new hat, the flowers, and the bread. I don't want to talk about this too much since it wasn't in the movie proper, but there's a whole song in the musical about Eric telling Ariel that they can express themselves through dance, and I feel like that was supposed to be representative of Eric losing attachment to the singing girl, that dance scene in the musical. I feel like it was possible for the montage scene to be a little too subtle for people to understand, but I think that a scene a lot of people also ignore is that Ariel takes the reins and jumps over the cliff with the carriage. Eric is shocked at first, but then he smiles at her. He's falling in love with her brave, curious, adventurous, and strong personality right there in front of us. And this is a personality that Sebastian and Triton would probably just call reckless and careless. And in that scene, after his talk with Grimsby, Eric accepts Ariel for who she is, throwing away his flute and rejecting the idea of finding the girl with the singing voice. Grimsby says, "Eric, if I may say, far better than any dream girl is one of flesh and blood, one warm and caring and right before your eyes." He's tossing aside the superficial quality and is about to go tell Ariel how he feels about her before getting brainwashed. Triton and Sebastian are equally fixated on Ariel's performance at the concert and her voice, but part of what makes Eric different is that he ultimately accepts Ariel for how she is without it, being one of the few characters to do so at this point, which I think is really important. Sebastian is coming around too, obviously, as I think him seeing Ariel thrive and be happy really changed his mind about the human world. It's also important to note that Eric and Ariel are kind of perfect for each other in the sense that they both feel a sense of freedom where they aren't supposed to be. Eric loves to be at sea, but Grimsby is pushing him into the role he was born for, much like Triton and Sebastian push Ariel into the role that she was born for. Eric and Ariel both reject what is expected of them and accept each other. Ariel accepts Eric's connection to the sea, and Eric accepts her connection to the land. They also give each other a new appreciation for the places they felt trapped in my opinion. Ariel enjoys the boat ride and also jumps back into the sea despite not being a mermaid anymore to save Eric, and sometime later they get married on a boat, a bridge between their worlds. Eric, on the other hand, goes on a land outing with Ariel and enjoys himself very much despite enjoying the sea more. We have to remember that Eric is pressured to conform as much as Ariel is. She accepts the sides of him he's felt others have dismissed, and he accepts her for the sides that others have dismissed of her. So with all that being said, on that very same note, Triton's lack of acceptance of Ariel is what causes Ariel to go to Ursula. Like we already discussed, Ariel had a whole plan to go to Eric herself, no legs required. She wasn't lamenting and moping about not being human, she was gonna go see him as a mermaid. So why go to Ursula? Because it's not about being human, it's about parents. Ariel's mother is dead and her father does not understand her. And right before she goes to Ursula, her father destroys her trust. Triton is invalidating and prejudiced against humans as a whole, which again, there's some stuff in this scene that feels kind of gay, but we'll talk about that another time. He asks her if she's lost her senses, if she's completely ridiculous, and you have the "he's a human, you're a mermaid" train of thought. He says they're all spineless, savage, harpooning fish eaters, incapable of any feeling, but Ariel knows that this is not the case. She saw Eric risk his life for his crew and his dog. Incapable of any feeling is very interesting, as this is something I only caught while reading the script since it's quickly drowned by Ariel's outburst that she loves him. I feel like the conflict here is that Triton is making Ariel feel as if she's almost stupid or wrong or defective. She spent all this time collecting and studying human things only for her to be told that she's wrong and humans are savage, unfeeling monsters. Almost as if she's missing the alert signal that everyone else has that they are dangerous. But this prejudice is taught, not inherent. and she has seen firsthand that this is just inaccurate. So after invalidating all of her experiences and what she has seen up to this point, he invalidates her true passion and destroys her possessions. It is not the material possessions here which are important, but rather the action of destroying them. This is important, as we'll talk about later, that Ariel is not materialistic like some people have made her out to be. It is the action that showcases a complete disregard for who she is and what she loves that is the problem here, not the breaking of the objects. And there is actually a point in the series where Ariel is willing to completely disregard her objects if it means that it will save everybody. And that is, again, outside of the canon of the movie, but it's something that I always think of. So at this point, Ariel has been invalidated in a way that emotionally breaks her compared to previous conflicts, which is where Ursula comes in. Ursula presents herself as someone who will help and understand her. She says that she helps poor unfortunate souls who have no one else to turn to, and Ariel does feel like she has no one else to turn to. Sebastian betrayed her trust, and her father just destroyed everything that she loves. As I mentioned before, the true warning of the movie, in my opinion, is how adults with bad intentions will manipulate young people for their own personal gain. When Ariel is invalidated, another parental figure steps in, but that figure has bad intentions. Trident could have turned Ariel human at any time, or Ariel would have not seen Ursula at all and would have went to see Eric herself. But his actions of invalidation push Ariel to seek out the parental figure in someone else. And something else to note is that Ursula is the one who actively puts these sexist ideas in her head of what women are supposed to be on land. She pushes these ideas on Ariel, which are not really true. When you invalidate your children, they may go to seek help from other adults who teach them bad things. Ursula is the one who encourages the sexism that people think Ariel perpetuates. Now that Ariel has lost some of her confidence, she is actively putting negative sexist ideas in her head, like the second half of Ursula's song about holding your tongue to get the man. Remember, Ariel goes to Ursula, in a sense, for help and advice. She did not know that Ursula would make her into a human, just make her dreams come true. That could have meant anything. But now, Ursula is telling her the only way to achieve your dreams, the only way to get what you want, is by trading her voice belonging to Ursula and going up to the surface as a human. And that's why it's so frustrating, because Ariel giving up her voice is not supposed to be promoted to children. It's encouraged by the villain, who wouldn't look at this and be like, yeah, that's a giant red flag. It's not being encouraged. No one should ever listen to Ursula because Ursula is evil. Ariel did not give up her voice for a man. She was manipulated by an adult to do so. And then Ursula goes on to put all these ideas in her head that Ariel will get by on her looks. That's Ursula. Men prefer if you don't speak and are not impressed with conversation or impressed by withdrawn passive women. That's Ursula. And think about it, that's the entire opposite of who Ariel is. She wanted to go to the human world to ask questions and get answers, to talk to humans, and she's anything but withdrawn, as we've already discussed, but now this interaction with her father has made her doubt herself and what she knows about humans, because he's the one who told her that everything she knew was wrong. And now Ursula is telling her, well, actually, I know about humans, and this is what they are, this is what they expect. Ariel is being preyed on. She has a desire for a supportive adult figure, and this one is taking advantage of her. Ursula even acknowledges in other scenes where Ariel is not around that she's headstrong and defiant. She knows that Ariel is confident and determined, but she just had to wait for someone to break that spirit in order to be able to manipulate her, because she wouldn't have been able to any other way. And this is a little bit nuanced, which is probably where many people get the wrong idea. It's not the action of turning Ariel human that is the bad thing. That does not mean that Ursula turning Ariel into a human was bad or sends a bad message, but rather it's her reasoning as to why she needs to be human. Ariel is told the only way to get what she wants is for her to be human, but to be human in this specific way. Being human is not the bad thing. Rather, it's being human in this specific context. Again, that context being everything that Ursula tells her that a woman should be on land. Ursula also presents to Ariel that she must totally cut herself off from the sea in order to be accepted by humans, which I don't think is true. I think the nuance of this is that yes, Ariel did need to be human to experience some of the things that the human world had to offer, but it's almost like it's the type of human that Ursula is presenting to her that is bad, the human who's entirely cut off from the sea, the human who is passive and holds her tongue. Ariel being human and a part of the human world is ultimately something that she always wanted, but Ursula presents it as if she has to make the choice that will shun her from the other side, that humans will shun her as a mermaid and mermaids will shun her as a human. And I feel like that Ariel giving up her voice was a product of Ursula's pressure and again that underlying sexism. The subtext here is that when Ariel turns into a human, she's almost turning into the human that Ursula wants her to be, like the one that is already going to be shunned from her family and everything. But that's why Triton has to turn her back into a human later, because Triton gives her the ability to be the human that she always wanted to be. And like we mentioned before, Ariel actively breaks all the things that Ursula has told her to be passive. She's not like that at all with her actions, even without her voice. So basically, Ursula gives her this criteria for her to act a certain way as a human woman. Ariel says, no, I don't think I will. Eric falls for her because of that, because Ariel is being her true self. And then Triton, at the end of the movie, is able to make Ariel a human again, but this is different than the human that Ursula had tried to make her. This is basically with no strings attached, the true human that Ariel always wanted to be, with her voice and all. And that's why I think that Ariel becoming human is a lot more nuanced than people think it is, because it's not just human as in the body, it's the human context that Ursula puts on her the first time, and then the freedom that she is given the second time. I think it's also important to note that the movie seems to promote that the gap has been bridged between mermaids and humans. Triton even turns Ariel back into a mermaid in the second movie, even though we're not going into that today. The bad thing is Ursula making human equal being shunned from where you come from and having to be entirely different from yourself. Whereas when this happens in the future, Ariel turns into a human or back into a mermaid on her terms. One side of her life is never closed off from her. She always has the ability to go back to the mer world if she so wishes. But back to Triton. When Triton loses Ariel, he realized how much he fucked up, in a sense. I think that sacrificing himself and his kingdom for Ariel is his way of atonement in that moment, showing her how much he regrets his actions and that ultimately this conflict is on his shoulders. Ariel would have never turned to Ursula if not for their fight, and the most she would have done was gone to see Eric on her own. Though I can admit that Ariel does have flaws in her behavior, she is ultimately his child while Triton is supposed to be the parent. By sacrificing himself and taking her place in the contract, she gives the one thing to Ariel that he always denied: freedom, as an apology. But Eric and Ariel fight to get his freedom back and the freedom of everyone else that Ursula manipulated too. In the end, Triton talks to Sebastian about how much he sees that Ariel loves Eric and transforms her back into a human. This is a different transformation to being human compared to what Ursula gave Ariel. Ursula gave being human with strings attached, some sexist criteria, and also needing to sever herself from the sea. But with Triton transforming Ariel into being a human, he's actually promoting the message that Ariel does not need to give up any part of herself, that she can be a part of both worlds. This is the healthy human transformation that Ariel should have gotten in the first place, and again reinforces that Ariel did not give up who she was for the man. Everyone else pressured her into giving up certain parts of herself that she was never self-conscious about until they did so. At the end, everyone becomes more open-minded and accepting of each other. This is also Triton's first sign of understanding, and I think that this represents what Ariel wanted all along. I don't think that Ariel was unhappy because she was back to being a mermaid in the end scene, but rather she was unhappy because she thought that she would be going back to a place where she felt unwanted and unaccepted, when Eric had accepted her. Think about all the way back to the start in Part of Your World when Ariel says, "Bet you on land they understand, but they don't reprimand their daughters." A lot of people use that to say that Ariel is a brat, but ignore what reprimand means in that context. What is Ariel not wanting to be reprimanded or punished because of? Being herself. She thinks that they would understand her on land because that is what she's always been seeking from her father, understanding. It isn't that she wants a free pass to get out of trouble, but rather she thinks that human fathers understand their human daughters. That is what she's been craving this whole time. So by making her human, this is Triton's way of showing Ariel understanding, which is a way to experience the human world once again. By turning Ariel into a human, he is acknowledging that he was wrong about humans being savage barbarians who have no feelings, because his daughter isn't like that and she had human in her heart all along. Eric disproves Triton's prejudice as well, but I feel like that this scene is supposed to be representative of the fact that he is helping to manifest what was inside his daughter's heart from the very beginning. You could say in a sense that Ariel was a mermaid with a human heart, and so now Triton is finally realizing that he was wrong about humans because he was wrong about Ariel, and kind of vice versa. And I also think that if there's something that Triton understands, it's love. He lost his wife, and I think that Eric saying he would not lose Ariel again could have resonated with Triton, as well as Eric's brave actions which showed him how wrong he was about humans being unfeeling and spineless. And finally in this scene, Sebastian tells Triton that children got to be free to lead their own lives. And that's a direct contrast to the beginning of the movie when Sebastian says that Triton has to keep her under tight control. The whole message is for Triton and Sebastian to learn to stop being so controlling, which again is why it bothers me so much that people side with Triton. Triton needs to learn to accept Ariel the way that Ariel had always accepted herself. And Triton shows Ariel with his actions that she will always have a place in both halves, and he can turn her back into a mermaid whenever she wants, as we know. And finally, the end song is a chorus with everyone saying, "Now we can walk, now we can run and stay all day in the sun together." And then they say, "And I can be part of your world." And in this case, this is I as in everyone is singing I. They're all saying I to each other, which I know can be a little confusing. But Eric can be part of hers and she can be part of his. Not that she's only part of his world or has given up her world in any capacity, but rather they can be part of each other's worlds as humans and mermaids once were. This is what the Little Mermaid and Ariel's transformation represents: acceptance, understanding, and bridging the gap between these two worlds. Speaking about the world though, what about our world and the capitalistic society we live in? I have no good segue for this, but something a lot of female characters get flack for is being materialistic. Someone could agree with everything I already said about Ariel, but then go on to say, but they're still too materialistic for my kids to see. I noticed this more in misconceptions in response to Barbie, but this criticism is definitely made about the Disney princesses too. If it's not how Ariel changed for a man or how Triton was right all along actually, some people have said that part of a reason for Ariel not being a good role model is because of her materialism and all the things she has, and obviously she's a princess with a certain amount of wealth. But when you listen to Part of Your World, these first lines are almost directed to the audience, telling them to look past all the things that she has. Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything means you would think that, wouldn't you? But that's not the case. Ariel is speaking against material objects here. Even though she does treasure them, as we see in the movie and the TV show, she's asking us to do away with our preconceived notions about what she has or the amount of it. People may think her saying "who cares" is dismissive, ungrateful, or again, bratty, as a lot of people say, but I read that more as frustration. Everyone thinks that you're happy or you should be happy because of material possessions, but who would pick a physical object over memories and moments? Who cares about things when you can have experiences? And with quarantine, I'm sure that we can all relate. We have all this technology, we have video games, we have movies, we have anything to occupy our time that we can order from Amazon. But yet, we have all these things and we're still unhappy. Why? Because all of these things are not a replacement for human contact. And the rest of the song illustrates what she wants to experience, as I mentioned before. She wants to dance, she wants to stroll down the street. Like we already discussed, Ariel values knowledge and moments. So she's not really materialistic at all, and Eric goes against superficial things too. Grimsby presents Eric with a, quote, large and expensive present, and Eric makes this face. I do not understand why anyone would think that this movie is superficial when all the main characters show a dislike for these big material objects, or a dislike for prioritizing objects over actual lived experiences, and are very humble in terms of their rank or their wealth. Ariel doesn't pull princess rank once in the movie, while Eric feels actively trapped being a ruler and does not flaunt his wealth at all. all. Their positions of power are not glamorized, and there's nothing that tells young people that they should be motivated by wealth or power. Instead, it's about freedom and experiencing life genuinely as yourself. The only person who is actively greedy is Ursula, who again is the villain that we shouldn't listen to. If you were to listen to the main characters, the message you would get is to value living your life versus having things. Whereas Ursula wants all this power and talks about the feast that they used to have at the palace. So that being said, we are now at the end of this video, and I think it's easy to see how The Little Mermaid is not sexist. It's the opposite, and it can be for any young person. The Little Mermaid is not oppressive, but it's progressive and empowering to many young people, including myself. And finally, Ariel is not a bad role model, but ironically, a victim of people misunderstanding her story, just like how Triton did not understand her. Now that we've analyzed the text, I hope that we can rid ourselves of this princess perception problem. I hope that Ariel will get her dues in the future as an empowering princess for anyone, but also for people specifically in the LGBT community like myself who see her story as almost coded in a way that relates to our experience. We'll talk about that another day, but I do have to wonder if some of the hate that Ariel gets may overlap from people that are just, I don't know how to explain it per se, but like looking at this through a particular lens that is not inclusive to our community, because I find that a lot of queer people understand Ariel a lot better than some of the other people that give criticism of her, and some of that criticism seems directly kind of connected to stuff like, you know, being a TERF, but again, that's a conversation for another day. So ends my analysis of The Little Mermaid. Comment down below on which princesses you want me to do next, what you think of this video, and any of my points. Remember to subscribe if you did not do it already, and thank you to all the wonderful patrons for making all of this possible. I would not be able to make videos without their direct support, and so now I'm gonna showcase them. I will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone!